So for the desalination process, people build plants and they use a very large area of membranes in order to be able to desalinate water for, say, a city. And we would like to apply the film on there that prevents the biofilm formation before the membranes go into the plant. So that's one area. But desalination often happens in different ways. So in very remote locations, reverse osmosis isn't economical because the scale is too small. To have reverse osmosis, you need to have very big plants in order to be economical. We are also applying this technology inside of microfluidic devices that are operated by using the electrical current to separate out the salt ions. And this is also proved useful. So we have applying in a very established technology, the reverse osmosis membranes, as well as the new or more newly pursued areas of desalination that are useful for smaller scale applications. And this includes things like ion concentration polarization that Professor Jay Hahn in electrical engineering here at MIT is pursuing. And it's interesting that the reverse osmosis works for, as I said, for large scale and also for certain salinities. There's certain places in the world where the seawater doesn't mix so well, and the saline is actually really at a high percentage. And there the reverse osmosis doesn't work because you need to apply too high of a pressure to the membrane. And so there's another technique called multi-stage flash, and we're also looking at applying surfaces to the inside of the multi-stage flash equipment, again, so that it doesn't foul and runs longer. There the challenge is not so much biofilm formation, but salt formation, divalent salts. In all of these cases for desalination where we're applying the coating, the idea is to have the process run more reliably and without intervention. And when you look at the overall cost of the water produced, because of the lower maintenance requirements, it makes it more economical. So it really gives people a larger access to water, and at a lower cost, and in more different ways in terms of whether you live in a region where the salt water is of normal salinity, or you live in one of these regions with high salinity, or if you live in a very remote place. All of these situations can be improved by applying surfaces that make the equipment more reliable and more economical to run. So we're very excited about these surfaces that are useful for desalination. We've done a lot of testing in the laboratory on samples that are of reasonable size, say something like 4 to 6 inches square. And we need to really do two things to bring it to commercialization. The first is some more real-world testing, and we have partners that can take these samples and really put them in real plants that are used. And these kinds of tests need to be done for durability and reliability. And we already know that we can scale the technology as far as widths of reactors. We have reactors that are more than 1 meter in dimension, but we have to really show that we can do these particular surface chemistries in those reactors, and that the process is stable and economic. And that's probably something that needs to be done with a partnership with a large company, or with a startup company. I think there are, as far as the kinds of companies that we would partner with, there are some very large companies that are generally in the areas of water and membranes, and those are probably the most likely partners. We also are interested in countries where water is a severe issue, and really finding partners with the governments that are there We know that countries like Singapore and Kuwait are more focused on water than we are currently here in the U.S. But even in the U.S., if you saw what happened with the California drought, there can be intense interest from areas based on the availability of water.